The vanishing roommate. I still remember the day my roommate Sarah disappeared. We were living in a small apartment in a quiet neighborhood, and everything seemed normal until her stuff started vanishing bit by bit. At first, I thought she was just being messy. But as the days went by, I realized that her clothes, books, and even her laptop were gone. The weird thing was that our lease was up for renewal, and Sarah had been stressing about it. She was always talking about how much she hated the apartment and wanted to move out. But I never thought she'd just leave without saying anything. As I searched the apartment, I found a strange note on her bedroom wall. It was written in red ink and said, "I'm still here." I felt a chill run down my spine. Where was Sarah? And what did she mean by that note? I started to notice strange noises at night, creaks and groans that sounded like someone was moving around. I tried to convince myself it was just the old building settling, but deep down, I knew something was off. One night, I woke up to the sound of my front door opening. I rushed to the living room, expecting to see Sarah, but there was no one there. That's when I saw the door to her old bedroom. It was slightly ajar. I pushed it open, and what I saw made my blood run cold. The room was exactly as Sarah had left it, but it was smaller. The walls seemed to have closed in, and the window was now a tiny slit. I felt like I was going crazy. Suddenly, I heard a faint whisper in my ear. "I'm still here." I didn't wait to find out what was happening. I packed my bags and got out of there as fast as I could. I never went back to that apartment, and I never saw Sarah again. Some say she's still trapped in that room, and on quiet nights, you can still hear her whispering, "I'm still here." The shared space. I lived with two roommates, Mike and Emma, in a decent-sized apartment. We all got along pretty well, but there was one thing that started to freak me out. We would find each other's stuff in our rooms, but we never lent anything to each other. At first, I thought maybe we were just borrowing things without realizing it. But then I started noticing strange things. One night, I woke up to find Emma's journal on my nightstand. I hadn't seen her bring it into my room, and when I asked her about it, she seemed genuinely confused. She didn't remember taking it out of her room or putting it on my nightstand. Then, I started finding Mike's dirty socks in my laundry basket. I was certain I hadn't taken them from his room. It was as if someone was moving our stuff around while we slept. The weirdness escalated when I found a note in my handwriting, but I didn't write it. It said, "Don't look in the closet." My heart racing, I opened the closet door, and what I saw made my skin crawl. There were photos of all three of us, but our faces were distorted and twisted. It looked like someone had taken the pictures while we were sleeping. I couldn't take it anymore. I packed my bags and left the apartment, telling Mike and Emma that I had to move out for personal reasons. As I was leaving, I saw Emma standing in the doorway of her room, staring at something on her nightstand. When I approached her, I saw that it was a note in my handwriting that said, "I'll be watching you." I didn't look back. I just left. Some say that apartment is still occupied by three roommates who never leave, trapped in a shared space with an unseen presence that manipulates their lives. The unseen flatmate. I was living alone in a one-bedroom apartment, or so I thought. At first, everything seemed normal. But then, I started noticing little things out of place. A book would be moved from the coffee table to the bookshelf, or the kitchen sink would be clean when I knew I left it dirty. I brushed it off as forgetfulness, but the occurrences continued. Then I started hearing whispers in the night. Faint, indistinguishable whispers. It was as if someone was talking in the room with me. But whenever I turned on the light, I was alone. One night, I came home to find dinner cooked and served on the dining table. It was my favorite dish, perfectly cooked. I was both amazed and terrified. Who could have done this? I didn't have any roommates, and I was certain I locked the door. The next day, I found a pair of shoes in my closet that weren't mine. They were men's shoes, size 10. I didn't know what to make of it. Was someone breaking into my apartment? Or was something more sinister going on? The whispers grew louder, and I started to make out words. Get out while you still can. I was paralyzed with fear. Who was saying this? And why? I tried to capture evidence, but every time I set up a camera or recorder, the strange occurrences stopped. It was as if the presence knew I was trying to catch it. One night, I came home to find my entire apartment rearranged. The furniture was different, the decorations were changed, and there was a fourth plate set at the dinner table. That's when I realized I wasn't alone. There was an unseen flatmate, and it had been trying to tell me something. I grabbed my essentials and left, never looking back. Some say that apartment is still occupied by an unseen presence, waiting for its next flatmate. The echoes of 314. I moved into apartment 314, unaware of its dark history. The building was old, and the apartment was cheap, so I took it. At first, everything seemed normal. But soon, I started noticing strange noises. Doors creaking, faucets dripping, and whispers in the night. It started with little things. I'd find notes on the kitchen counter with phone numbers and reminders. But I never wrote them. The handwriting wasn't mine. Then, I discovered that the apartment had been previously occupied by a woman named Rachel, who had lived there with her family. As I explored the apartment, I found old photographs and mementos belonging to Rachel's family. It was as if they had left in a hurry. I started to feel like I was living in their space, and the whispers grew louder. One night, I heard a child's laughter coming from the bedroom. I rushed in, but there was no one there. That's when I saw the journal belonging to Rachel's daughter, Emily. As I flipped through the pages, I realized that the entries stopped abruptly on the date they left the apartment. The whispers turned into conversations, and I could make out Rachel's voice talking to her family. It was as if they never left. I felt trapped in their lives, reliving their memories. One night, I received a phone call from an unknown number. A woman's voice whispered, "Get out while you still can." It was Rachel. I knew I had to leave, but as I packed my bags, I realized that I was part of their story now. As I left apartment 314, I heard the door lock behind me. Some say that apartment is still occupied by Rachel's family, trapped in time, reliving the same moments over and over. And if you listen closely, you can still hear their whispers, echoing through the walls of 314.